Seguimos. Seguimos con este juegardo. Vamos allá. He cogido un café y unas cookies.
I see nothing remarkable. I see nothing remarkable.
Nada por aquí, nada por allá. Vale.
Nothing else to see about that?
Interesante.
This could use a closer look.
Es interesante. Rey Jacobo. Canto de Salmón. JJJ. Canto de Salomón, perdón. No de Salmón, de Salomón. Canto de Salmón. Ah. Canto de Salmón.
I copied the contents into my notebook.
A ver. Tony, ponte tu mejor traje y saca brillo a tus zapatos. He conseguido que nos inviten a una fiesta para el fin de semana del 9 de agosto en casa de los Owens. ¿No los conoces? Me temo que se trata de nuevos ricos, pero sus cenas no son nada despreciables. Habrá buenos cócteles y algunas jovencitas para alegrarnos la vista. Y puedes aprovechar para probar tu nuevo automóvil por las sinuosas carreteras de Devon. Nos vemos luego. Si no te pegas antes, si no te la pegas antes, dirígete a Sticklehaven, siguiendo hacia el sur hasta que llegues al mar. Habrá un barco esperándote. Hasta pronto, gamberro. Perfecto.
This bears a closer look.
¿Qué es esto? Vale, nos quedamos esto. Para posibles nuevas combinaciones, ¿verdad? Esto era la entrada de servicio, ¿verdad? Vale.
No need to call unnecessary attention to my snooping.
¿Qué es esto? Bolsa de tabaco.
I can't see anything of interest.
¿Se puede juntar esto?
Those don't work together. I don't need it, and I'm no pack rat.
¡Ah! La cabeza de la pipa.
I see nothing remarkable. That works. Just barely.
Vale.
It's a marble sculpture of an elephant. I don't think going through that would help. Either he's innocent, in which case I'd be grossly invading his privacy, or he's guilty, and surely wouldn't be daft enough to leave any evidence in his luggage. I find this painting particularly bland. I copied the contents into my notebook.
Mi querido Lawrence. Pasan muchos años desde que usted, que nos regala en Inglaterra, donde se acaba de comprar una maravillosa mansión extraña y moderna en la isla de los naufragios. Vale. Ok. Esto es un flamenco. A flamingo. Y aquí habíamos estado, ¿verdad?
Nothing out of order in here. I'd best not take anything, though. I'm sure he would notice.
Vale, pues... ¿Nos vamos abajo? Supongo que ya es hora de seguir escuchando lo que dicen los hueones. No, aquí no habrá nada aún, ¿verdad? Ah, qué rico. Qué bueno el café. Ah. A ver, un segundito. Estos están jugando antes aquí al billar. No sé si habrá algo por aquí que valga la pena mirar.
I can't open it. It's locked.
Uy. ¿Qué he cogido? Ornitología en el litoral de Devon.
Property of Teresa Robson. I transcribed the interesting passages into my notebook.
Una pared de la pared de la boceta. Las numerosas bocetas que antaño frecuentaban las salobres ensenadas han desaparecido por ejemplo de la isla. Es una lástima, aunque parece que queda una esperanza en el momento de seguir estas líneas. Dice que se están llevando a cabo proyectos de recolonización desde el continente, pero las perspectivas de éxito para semejante empresa no son buenas. Como me gustó el experimento fallido a gran escala para volver a introducir. Ajá. Porque como el gran número de aves de los humanoides. Vale. Ok. Veremos si tiene esto alguna importancia después.
Those currents appear quite deadly. That's Shipwreck Island.
Es que pone 105.
This bears a closer look.
Muchísimas gracias por ese elixir, Darhal. Se agradece muchísimo.
That's Shipwreck Island. Those currents appear quite deadly. That's Shipwreck Island. That's Shipwreck Island.
Vale, entonces significa que este telegrama
Let me examine this further.
se envió desde... Este telegrama se envió desde la isla. No, son los códigos de los telegramas, supongo. Los códigos de... Se han señalado los códigos de donde recibe o desde donde tiene que mandar telegramas, ¿no? Es el de la isla, 849, 8429, no sé dónde sea, y 7219 tampoco. A lo mejor me estoy liando yo, ¿eh?
A rather beautifully made globe of the world.
Oh, mira. Cinta aislante, nunca viene mal.
The drawer is locked.
¿Qué pone aquí? Ah, va. Es un sello. Y esto es una almohadilla.
There is no cause for that. This is neither the time nor the place.
Esto es lo típico, la típica cosa de tinta, ¿no? No tenemos ninguna llave, ¿no? Para abrir. Rollo de cinta adhesiva. ¿Cómo? ¿Cómo no? ¿Cómo vamos a precintarlo todo, eh? ¿Qué hemos cogido? Lámpara de escritorio con bombilla, ok. Tía. Historias de la costa del sur de Devon.
I transcribed the pertinent passages in my notebook.
Vale. No sé yo si tendrá utilidad práctica esto.
That looks like the jetty here on the island. He looks quite happy. She a little less so.
Imagínate salir de esta habitación tan cargado de ítems, ¿sabes?
A rather beautifully made globe of the world.
Diario.
Normally, I would never violate someone's privacy this way. However, given the circumstances, I will examine the entries for clues and transcribe any passages I find pertinent.
Diario de Robson. En realidad toda esta zona de la casa ya no me interesa. Realmente me aventuro más allá de la sala de juegos. A pesar de sus deberes respetarse, que no me gustaría que yo invadiera su santuario privado, pero en fin. Desde luego, ocultar un pasadizo secreto así resulta de lo más estereotipado. En la biblioteca. No me pregunto si Elmer estará en sus cabales. Tanto valdría que vinieran más en el único sitio donde parece encontrar perfectamente sus facultades. Ciertamente el albatros es una de lo más elegante en movimiento. Las fotografías no le hacen justicia en absoluto. La mayoría de las aves que se ven por esta isla olvidada de la mano de Dios tiene un aspecto ridículo cuando revolotean. No que salir de aquí, me siento como encerrada. Primero cambio de actitud y rápido tal vez Elmer volvió a intentar convencerme para montar en la goleta esta tarde. Apenas lleguen ni al muelle. Es absurdo, lo sé, pero me invade la sensación de que todo el océano es un abismo sin fondo. Cualquier nave, independientemente de lo grande y sólida que seas, está atraída hacia esa abrumadora oscuridad en cualquier momento. Elmer puede ser testarudo, pero por lo menos acaba cediendo. Vamos a venderle la casa a Gabriel Stell, la actriz. Nos trasladaremos a tierra firme, aunque la travesía del canal me impone. Ya le dije que podía soportar sabiendo que nunca tendré que volver a acercarme a una isla. Muy tipo de Elmer tuvo que contestar que Inglaterra es una isla también. Es cierto. Muchísimas gracias por ese elixir, Rande. Es cierto, Inglaterra es una isla, pero gigantesca, pero una isla. No puedo decir que haya un futuro de los dinastías. Hoy se ha paseado por la casa como si ya fuera suya. Es la forma de ver una casa, la verdad. Los hombrecillos, los faderos, uno de ellos no hacía más que tomar notas a medida que la diva iba dictando sus planes holandeses para algunas zonas de la casa, sin ocultar su disgusto por algunos aspectos, mis adoradas aves, y sus ideas de reforma. Una sala de proyecciones, ya me la imagino pasando horas y horas en ella viendo sus películas, admirando su propio talento. Bueno, no está mal tampoco, ¿eh?
I transcribed the pertinent passages in my notebook.
Mucha cosa que leer, ¿no? Uy. Ah. Ah. Amigo. Amigo. Veamos si estoy yo bien.
I think I heard a click. I could be imagining it, though. I think I heard a click. I could be imagining it, though.
Nice. Nice. Oh. Oh. A ver, ¿qué es esto?
This could use a closer look.
Hablar no cuesta nada. Lema para vender radios. Hablar no cuesta nada. Los rumores pueden ser horrorosos. Guarda bien tus secretos. Ah, vale, que es para cajas fuertes. Pensé que era para la radio. Es verdad, esto es una caja fuerte, ¿verdad? British Admiralty, ¿vale?
It's a shortwave radio. It could be useful if I could get it working. It seems to be missing quite a few parts.
Ah,
This is
mira.
an odd sort of power cord. It doesn't seem to fit into a regular socket.
Vale, pues ya veremos. Vale.
This is an odd sort of power cord. It doesn't seem to fit into a regular socket.
No, esta válvula la usaremos. Esta válvula la usaremos en la otra, en la que está fuera. Pongo. Ya veremos.
It's a shortwave radio. It could be useful if I could get it working. It seems to be missing quite a few parts. Boxes. Nothing of use in them.
Vale.
Boxes. Nothing of use in them.
Esta es la famosa caja fuerte, ¿verdad?
Boxes. Nothing of use in them. The handle jiggles but won't open. I must have dialed in the wrong combination.
Nada, ya miraremos, ¿eh? Voy a volver a dejarlo en 0. Porque no se me ocurre...
This bears a closer look.
No creo que sea esto, la verdad. Cero 1 0 5 0 0 0 1 0 5.
The handle jiggles but won't open. I must have dialed in the wrong combination.
No sea tan fácil. Vámonos. Mira, perfecto. Oh, salir no podemos, ¿no?
It won't help my brother if I'm drowned in the storm.
Vamos a ver si nos podemos unir ya al gentilío de la cena.
Aha! With my ear against the door, the conversation becomes quite clear.
Did anyone else see the poem over the fireplace?
10 little sailor boys? Yes, I saw it.
And here before us as the centerpiece of our table are the 10 little sailor boys themselves, all looking correct and polished.
I like a neat and tidy house, Your Honor.
Robson, the man who built this house, was a sailor. Perhaps Mr. Owen inherited them from him.
Another question for Mr. Owen.
As I remember, the rhyme was about soldier boys. Highly inappropriate, as I recall.
There are many variations.
You seem to know quite a bit about it, Miss Claythorne.
I was a governess before seeking secretarial work. Governesses spend a lot of time with nursery rhymes.
All gratuitously gruesome, if you ask me. So much violence in the world today.
Sometimes violence is necessary, Miss Brent.
There speaks a soldier for you.
A realist, Miss Brent, not a dreamer. If action needs to be taken, I, for one, am fully prepared to take it.
How does the famous rhyme go, Miss Claythorne?
Must we harp on this topic at dinner?
Miss Brent may be right, Mr. Marston. The rhyme is a bit gruesome. It's there over the fireplace in the parlour if you care to have a look later.
If you think so.
Excellent meal, Rogers. My compliments to both you and your good woman. You've done your employers proud.
Thank you, sir, ladies and gentlemen. Most gratifying, I'm sure. After dinner drinks will be served in the front parlour.
Ok.
Ladies and gentlemen, silence please. This is your host, UN Owen. You are charged with the following indictments. Edward George Armstrong, that you did upon the 14th day of March 1925 cause the death of Louisa Mary Cleese. Emily Caroline Brent, that upon the 5th of November 1931 you were responsible for the death of Beatrice Taylor. William Henry Blore, that you brought about the death of James Stephen Landor on October 10th, 1928. Vera Elizabeth Claythorne, that on the 11th day of August 1935 you killed Cyril Ogilvy Hamilton. Philip Lombard, that upon a date in February 1932 you were guilty of the death of 21 men, members of an East African tribe. John Gordon Mackenzie, that on the 4th of January 1917 you deliberately sent your wife's lover Arthur Richmond to his death. Anthony James Marston, that upon the 14th day of November last you were guilty of the murder of John and Lucy Combs. Thomas Rogers and Ethel Rogers, that on the 6th of May 1929 you brought about the death of Jennifer Brady. Lawrence John Wargrave, that upon the 10th day of June 1934 you were guilty of the murder of Edward Seaton. Prisoners at the bar, have you anything to say in your defense?
Doctor! Only fainted, Rogers. I'm sure she'll be fine. Narracott, you get my bag from my room?
Yes, of course.
Stout fellow. Marston, in a moment I'll want help to get her to her room.
Of course.
Behind the kitchen, is it, Rogers?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. You can use that door.
Please, Narracott, I need my bag as soon as possible.
Ok. Vale, ¿dónde estaba el...? Esto es el baño. Esta no me acuerdo. No era esta, ¿verdad? No. Esta es, efectivamente. ¿Puedo ver algo de aquí, por cierto?
I can't see anything of interest.
Vale, han ido a la... Han ido a la habitación de... Vale, estaba por aquí. Es esta la habitación, ¿verdad?
Perhaps we can talk later. For now, I must see to my patient.
Vale, te voy a dar el maletín, a ver qué me dices.
Thank you, Mr. Narracott. I am in your debt. Perhaps we can talk later. For now, I must see to my patient.
No quieres tratar el tema, ¿eh? No quieres tratar el elefante en la habitación.
For now, I must see to my patient.
¿Hay que hablar algo ahora ya? Vale, vamos a ver qué dice el resto de gente que está ahí en... Hola.
Now, Rogers, tell us about that extraordinary voice.
It was Mr. Owen, sir. In his letter, he wrote to me to put it on the gramophone once you were all settled in here after dinner.
That was Mr. Owen's voice?
You doubt that it was?
No. I thought I recognized it. I'm sure I'm mistaken.
A disgraceful practical joke.
You think it was a joke?
What else could it be?
I will need to hear more evidence before offering an opinion.
Mr. Marston and I carried Mrs. Rogers to her room. I gave her a mild sedative. She's resting comfortably.
Whoever it was on that recording, that person knows or has taken the trouble to find out a good deal about us all. He was correct about Seton. I presided at the trial, but all I did was execute a guilty man.
I remember the case. As I recall, there was some talk.
Happily, guilt and innocence are decided by those of us qualified to make a judgment, not by gossip. Of course, there is one omission in that recording. Mr. Narracott, of course. Although to hear Mr. Blore tell it, he might have earned a place on that list had Mr. Owen been so inclined.
¿Qué insinúas, pedazo de mierda? No, yo estoy aquí por mis propios motivos. Yo no, de hecho, yo no estoy invitado a esta wea. ¿Hay algo de verdad en su acusación?
To the accusation against you.
It's a matter of interpretation, you understand. But I'd have to say, yes.
Will you tell me how it happened?
Elderly woman. Poor devil. I'd been up all night with an emergency case. My nerves were shot, hands shaking. But I had to operate. I had to try and save her.
Uy.
I had a pick-me-up or two to steady myself, but
Uy.
I bungled it. It wasn't the drink, I swear. It was an accident. Could have happened to anyone in my profession.
What was the gossip concerning the Seton case?
I'm not one to spread gossip to just anyone about a man as distinguished as Justice Wargrave. If I were certain about it, perhaps. But I'm not.
¿Por qué?
What brought you here to Shipwreck Island?
Owen sent me a note, asking me to have a look at his wife, who's been suffering from arthritis and muscle spasms.
That is all for now, Dr. Armstrong.
Me resulta curioso. Me resulta curioso que confíen en mí, ¿no?
I shouldn't do that. I need to have my wits about me. No need to call unnecessary attention to my snooping.
Por cierto. ¿Se habrá dejado el botiquín en la habitación de la señora con las drogas? ¡Drogas!
I don't think she's in the mood for conversation.
Se ha dejado el botiquín, pero... no nos sirve de nada, maldita sea.
Any truth to the accusation against you?
The name sounded vaguely familiar.
I expect it will come to me.
Este está en negación.
What brought you here to Shipwreck Island?
Got a wire from a pal of mine, Badger Barkley. Surprised me at the time because I had an idea the old horse had gone to Norway. Told me to roll up here.
Thanks, Marston. Any truth to the accusation against you?
There isn't a word of truth in it. Miss Brady was always in poor health. Always. From the time we came to her.
Will you tell me how it happened?
There was a storm, as fierce as the one brewing outside right now when she was taken bad. The telephone was out of order. I went for the doctor on foot, but he got there too late.
Were you mentioned in the will?
Barely. Certainly not what we were led to believe. She was just saying it, you see, to ensure our devotion to her. Beg pardon. I'm not sure what came over me just then. The strain of tonight, I expect, and worry over Mrs. Rogers, of course.
What brought you here to Shipwreck Island?
Isn't that obvious, sir? My wife and I were hired through an agency in Plymouth. Manservant, housekeeper, cook. That's what we are.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers.
Ok. O sea, estos están acusados de matar a una anciana que los tenía en su testamento, pero luego resultó que no los tenía de la forma en la que ellos creían. Aquí creo que esto cabe, ¿verdad? Exacto, y ahora faltan... Vale. Bueno, de momento me lo llevo, pero la podemos usar. Pero la puedo usar... Me faltarían 2 bobinas, ¿no? O sea, son 3.
It's got power, but it still doesn't seem to be working.
Claro.
Any truth to the accusation against you?
I remember Seaton perfectly well. Playwright, not a very good one. Charged with the murder of a chorus girl. He was very ably defended and made a good impression on the jury. Nevertheless, it was clear to me he'd done it.
I am grateful for your assistance, Judge Wargrave.
Vale.
Any truth to the accusation against you?
About that child, Cyril Hamilton. I was nursery governess to him.
Will you tell me how it happened?
I'd like to tell you. Cyril was forbidden to swim out far. One day, my attention was distracted. I couldn't get there in time. It was awful. But it wasn't my fault. At the inquest, the coroner exonerated me. Oh, and his mother. She was so kind. If she didn't blame me, why should this awful thing be said?
Are you sure you're telling me everything?
I'm telling you all I'm going to, Mr. Narracott.
Ah.
What brought you here to Shipwreck Island?
I was engaged through an agency to be Mrs. Owen's secretary. Nothing remarkable in that, is there?
Thank you for your time, Miss Glatham.
Any truth to the accusation against you?
Fellow got hold of a detestable rumor, nothing more. Arthur Richmond was one of my officers. I sent him on a reconnaissance, he was killed. Natural course of events in wartime.
Thank you, General.
A ver.
Any truth to the accusation against you?
Owen did his research well. The accusation is absolutely true. I don't see that you've earned the right to any details, though.
No, bueno, no te lo ordeno, pero si quieres...
Will you tell me how it happened?
Oh, it was written up in the papers at the time. A story of self-preservation, pure and simple. A hunting party lost in the bush. The great white hunter checks the food supplies, assesses his chances, and clears out on his own.
Leaving 21 men to die.
Not very Puka Sahib, I'm afraid.
Pues vaya tela.
What brought you here to Shipwreck Island?
Owen's attorney, a man named Archibald Morris, rang up one day. Wanted to give me 100 guineas to join this house party. I was to put myself at Owen's disposal in case my rather specialized talents were required.
¿Qué habilidades específicas son esas? Supongo que es guía de safari o algo así.
Talents would those be?
You might say I'm a good man in a scrap.
Good evening, Mr. Lombard.
Bueno, algo más turbio parece entonces, ¿verdad?
Any truth to the accusation against you?
Look, Narracott, if that's what you want to call yourself. The rules have changed. Can't you see that? The past is past. It's the present we should be worrying about. Something is not right here.
Estoy pensando que el médico me ha dicho que debería de ganarme su confianza. A lo mejor te puedo dar el diario de este tipo. No creo, pero lo voy a probar.
Will you tell me how it happened?
All right. Perhaps I was doing the odd favor for the Purcells. But if your brother was framed, I had nothing to do with it. Yes, they paid me to perjure myself about Landor. Thanks to them, I was able to put enough away to set up my own detective agency. Nothing fancy, but I've been straight ever since, I swear.
Landor died.
He got penal servitude for life and died in Dartmoor a year later. Not my fault he was such a delicate man.
Joder,
What
puta.
brought you here to Shipwreck Island?
I run a little detective agency in Plymouth these days. I'm on a job. To protect Mrs. Owen's jewels, the letter said. Mrs. Owen, my foot. I don't believe there's any such person.
Good evening, Mr. Bloor. I overheard you mention St. Trednick to Miss Claythorne.
I was staying at a seaside hotel near St. Trednick this same week of August 4 years ago. That boy Cyril Hamilton drowned near there. It was the talk of the town. His half-brother was much older. Hugo, I think his name was. Cyril was a vile child, by all accounts, but first in line for the family title and estates. When he died, it all went to Hugo. He was just about Miss Claythorne's age.
Oh,
Something between them.
You're suggesting Vera
¿Qué
the boy
dices?
drowned so the man she loved could inherit?
That would be idle gossip. I don't indulge in idle gossip. I've only told you the facts of the case as I remember them.
¿qué dices? ¿Qué dices?
Any truth to the accusation against you?
I have always acted in accordance with the dictates of my conscience. I have nothing with which to reproach myself.
Will you tell me how it happened?
It was some time before I found out she was what they call in trouble. Her parents were decent folk, too. I'm glad to say they did not condone her behavior when I told them of it.
What happened to Beatrice?
Naturally, I did not keep her an hour under my roof. No one shall ever say that Emily Brent condoned immorality.
How did she die?
Not content with having one sin on her conscience, she committed a still graver sin. She took her own life, threw herself in the river. If she
Hija de puta eres.
decent young woman, she'd
Eres una hija de puta.
You have no regrets?
She made an excellent breakfast. I miss that. Fresh juice every day.
Una desgraciada.
What brought you here to Shipwreck Island?
I received a letter with a signature that was not very easy to read. It purported to be from a woman I'd met at a certain summer resort 2 or 3 years ago. I am quite certain I have never met or become friendly with anyone of the name of Owen.
I won't take up any more of your time, Miss Brent.
Vamos a ver si podemos comentar de ahí al gossip que nos acaba de decir la otra.
The time for talk has passed.
No podemos. A lo mejor con el doctor.
Now is not the time for chatter. Perhaps another time.
Vale, vamos a ver.
The time for talk has passed.
A ver. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Vale. Y son 10, ¿no? Sí, la otra está inconsciente. Ok.
I don't think she's in the mood for conversation. I have more
Vale.
important things to do than chat. I won't do that.
Vale, a ver qué podemos hacer.
I don't think that's appropriate. That isn't such a good idea. Perhaps another time. I won't do that. That isn't going to help. There is no cause for that. They don't get along.
Vale.
There is no cause for that. I don't think he's in the mood for conversation.
Vamos a ver si hay algo en el comedor que se hayan dejado.
Interesting history Shipwreck Island has. I'd studied up on it before I came down.
What are the names of those two people I'm accused of killing?
John and Lucy Combs. I made a note of it.
Must have been a couple of kids I ran over near Cambridge. Beastly bad luck.
For them or for you?
Well, I was thinking for me, but of course you're right, sir. It was damned bad luck on them. Of course it was a pure accident. They rushed out of some cottage or other. Beastly nuisance. English roads are hopeless, of course. Can't get up a decent pace on them. Well, anyway, it wasn't my fault.
Qué trozo de mierda, ¿no? Parece que lo han envenenado, ¿eh?
This man is dead.
¿Quién? Ah, él. ¿Marston no se ha ahogado?
You can call it choking if you like. He died of asphyxiation right enough.
Was Marston poisoned?
Can't say exactly. Everything points to one of the cyanides. No distinctive smell of prussic acid. Probably potassium cyanide. It acts pretty well instantaneously.
Había algo en el
Was there
whisky.
something in the whiskey?
Yes, without a doubt.
Do you think it was suicide?
Seems like it.
Could he have been murdered?
Not my line of country. I'm a doctor, not a detective.
Did you know Marston before he arrived here today?
Not I. Personally or professionally.
What do you think that record means?
A disgraceful and heartless practical joke, I suppose.
That is all for now, Dr. Armstrong.
Aquí hay que hablar con todo el mundo, ¿no?
Do you think it was suicide?
You conduct yourself well, Mr. Narracott, if you don't mind my saying so. Mr. Blore has told us that you are not what you appear, yet you told him you were not a detective.
No, sir. But I've read many detective novels. I even had one of those junior detective kits when I was a boy. Magnifying glass, fingerprint powder.
Junior detective kit. Wonderful.
Ah, an amateur sleuth, then. You appear to have something of a gift for it.
About the suicide, Judge.
I'm not yet prepared to offer an opinion.
Did you know Marston before he arrived here today?
I knew his father, the Duke, and his elder brother. Like so many younger sons of his class, Anthony Marsden was a bit of a wastrel, as you will have gathered. There were other rumors of late, of his dabbling in politics, but this is not the proper forum for that discussion.
What do you think that record means?
May I answer that in a moment after asking a question of my own?
Of course.
Does anyone know Mr. Owen's full name?
My letter was signed only UN Owen.
Yes, UN Owen. Or, by a slight stretch of fancy, unknown. I'll now answer your question, Mr. Narracott. The name, the recording, the circumstances under which all but you were lured to this island. I have no doubt in my mind that we have been invited here by a madman, very possibly a dangerous, homicidal lunatic.
De todas maneras, nosotros sí que tenemos el nombre completo de Owen, ¿eh? Se ponía Ulrich.
Why did you retire, Judge?
I know there was talk about my competence, even my ego running wild, but the truth of it is very simple. My health. A lifetime sentencing my fellow man, and now a higher power has passed judgment on me.
I am grateful for your assistance, Judge Wargrave.
Vamos a salvar y continuaremos. ¡Wololo! Ahora formáis parte todos de mi equipo.